It's James Parker. We have some mass shootings to talk about again. These are a little smattered all over the country, and there's not one big one that has captivated all of our attention. And really, as sort of a demonstration of how the media can select the narrative just by picking some stories to highlight and avoiding others, this is a perfect day to go through that sort of. I mean, it's not even a theory. It's not a hypothesis or a theory. We know this. This is the number one way people lie to you. This is the number one way media outlets lie to you, is the stories they choose to omit. So the bigger headlines, the ones that you're definitely going to hear about on the shows that was before me and after me, a couple of those, the shooting that happened in Michigan. There's an LDS church in Michigan. The non-LDS people more commonly refer to them as Mormons. And it's an ugly one. Some guy drove his truck into their church, got out, started shooting, took out a couple people, threw gasoline everywhere, set fire, and then he died in a shootout with the cops while the church burned to the ground, and supposedly 2 other people perished in the resulting fire, and we're not even sure if that's going to be the end of it. So huge, terrible tragedy. And the normal factors are at work here. People in Team Blue are trying to blame Team Red. People on Team Red are trying to blame Team Blue. But this just happened. So whatever the details I pass along today, some of them will be adjusted in the days to come. But before we dive too much in the details here, there's a lot of other shootings that happened over the weekend, some of which are getting attention, some aren't. There was a strange story of I'm not saying this to be funny. It's a boat-by shooting. You know how there's drive-by shootings? We even see like motorcycle shootings or someone on a bicycle or a moped do a shooting. I think this is the first time in my life I've heard of a boat-by shooting. Some guy went past a restaurant with a dock, and it's right on the lake there, the river. And I don't know. It seemed like there was some little planning involved too. I don't know why a guy would want to go shoot up a bunch of diners who were on a pier having dinner. But it happened. South Carolina, some tiny town I'd never heard of over by Cape Fear. Not the movie, but the region from which the movie was set. But that's a strange one. A couple people dead, a lot more injured. We'll get into more details on that one. But some other mass shootings that aren't getting anywhere near the same amount of national media attention. There was one that happened in Texas. There was a deadly shooting at an Eagle Pass casino here in Texas. And you're like, wait, we can't have casinos in Texas. Well, we can have like 5 of them. And so this is on some land. This is, of course, a Native American endeavor here from the Kickapoo tribe. And in this one, we had 2 dead, 5 wounded. Now, why isn't this getting nearly as much attention? It's similar in horror and scope to the other 2. We'll get into details later, but one of the dead is a retired Customs and Border Patrol agent. We are still kind of waiting on a motive here. I don't expect a whole lot of people to do some follow-up, but I will try and follow this for you and circle back around to this. Another shooting. There's one that hadn't happened in Denton this weekend. It wasn't a mass shooting, but it was one that's not going to get nearly the same amount of attention. It was a couple of people got into an argument. It sounds like over a parking space. They say a right-of-way dispute. There ended up being a shooting there. In fact, this just happened at the QT in Denton over the weekend. WFAA had the report.
New tonight, Denton police say 2 people are facing murder charges after an argument in a gas station parking lot led to a deadly shooting. It happened at the Quick Trip on West Eagle Drive around 1 o'clock this morning. Officers say Alfred Jackson Jr. and Olivia Guster got into a fight with 2 people over the right-of-way in the QT parking lot. Investigators say Jackson hit one person with a shovel and eventually shot and killed a man. Police say the victims did not know those suspects.
So 2 strangers get into an argument over something as trifling as whatever right-of-way at a QT gas station at 1 in the morning in Denton means. Certainly doesn't rise to the level of taking someone's life, but here we are. So that's another strange shooting. Why doesn't that get nearly the attention? Why doesn't that? Does that make Team Red look bad, or does that make Team Blue look bad? Does that make guns look scary? So why don't it kind of does? So why don't they report on that one as much? There's another report here. This is from local media. They say overnight, a 16-year-old was shot in Oak Cliff, in central Oak Cliff. Well, this report was put on the website, and the timestamp was from this morning, both published and updated this morning. So, yeah, overnight, a 16-year-old was shot and killed. Boy, we were sure to have a problem with gun violence here. No, actually, this shooting happened 9 days ago on September 20th. So the headline's kind of misleading. But you go read the story, and it was an accidental shooting. Some guy was playing with the gun. A 20-year-old was playing with the gun. He has quite an ethnic-sounding name. I don't know if that plays into the scope of coverage here. But it sounds like he accidentally shot a 16-year-old. He died, and so the 20-year-old's going to get charged with manslaughter here. But it was 9 days ago. It's so strange, the picking and choosing. Are the lives that were lost in Eagle Pass versus South Carolina versus the Michigan LDS Church versus the accidental 16-year-old that got shot and killed? I mean, is one more valuable than the other? Does one deserve more attention than the other? And look, these are kind of rhetorical questions, but if you want to jump in on the conversation, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. But that last one, I guess it's newsworthy. Is it newsworthy if a 16-year-old's accidentally shot in a giant metropolitan area of 8 million people? You know, there's tons of other crimes that are probably more concerning to your audience. This would be something that counts as news in Bug Tussle because we just don't have people dying on a regular basis. You know, anything, a bad car wreck is news in Bug Tussle. But ask yourself this question. You get reports every time a child is accidentally killed with a gun. Even if they don't find out until 9 days later, they will still go run and publish it as if it's news. Is that new information or is that over a week old? They tell you it was overnight. No, it wasn't. Have you ever gotten a report about a young lady dying from a botched abortion? So the answer to that is no, you haven't. How did I know that? Gee, I'm just a mind reader. No, they don't. They've never reported on it. In my entire life, I've never seen one of those reports. Does it happen? Sure. Sure, it doesn't happen every day. Definitely happens every year. Some year it's just 12. Some years it's 29 or so. I've looked up the numbers. You've never heard a report on that in your entire life, even though it happened. So why is the life lost from an accidental gun discharge reported on, but the life lost from a mistake made during an abortion never gets reported? Because it's not news. You're listening to political activism masquerading as news. Isn't that immoral and ugly? All right, now coming up, I'll give you more details on all those shootings I just mentioned, or some of those shootings I just mentioned, including the two big ones, the one in Michigan and the one in South Carolina, the boat buy shooting and the attack on the LDS Church, because some are saying already it's another anti-Christian attack. Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. The ramming and mass shooting at a Mormon church in the Detroit area is my top story for you today. And the details on this are pretty scary here. You have a guy, and he's dead. The suspect was killed at the scene. But here's a little bit of what we know about him. His name's Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40 years old, of Burton, Michigan. Sunday morning during their Sunday service, while you were at your church, this guy decided he was going to drive his truck into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township. And when I say drive his truck, I don't mean he went into the porta show. I don't mean he went into the garage. He barreled through a sidewall, got out with what looked to be a rifle, and killed a couple people from gunfire. Apparently splashed gas everywhere, started a big fire, ran out, got into a fight with the cops, lost the fight with the cops, the aristocrats. So FBI is leading the case. There's a whole bunch of feds in on it. They say they're investigating this as a targeted act of violence. Targeted act of violence. This is different than some guy who's psychotic and he's just shooting whoever's next to him. This is different than a guy whose wife's cheating on him with some dude, and so he tried to just kill that one guy. I mean, obviously, that's, not what was happening here. But I think that is a sort of politically correct way of meaning, this was quite possibly an anti-Christian, maybe specifically anti-Mormon attack. I don't know why there would be an anti-Mormon attack. There's never been one. Nobody has beef with Mormons. Who's got a problem with Mormons? Who do Mormons agitate? Nobody? I mean, they're like the nicest people in America. It's like them and the Amish. You can't even get them to fight. And I say this because where I grew up in Bug Tussle, there were a lot of LDS kids at my school. And you know what? They were good kids. They weren't poor. They weren't divorced. They weren't getting in fights. They had a good relationship with their dad. It was the craziest thing. So is this just going to get rolled up in the larger trend of anti-Christian violence? I don't want to jump the gun and say, yes, that's what it looks like so far. But that's the closest. If I had to pick a square, if I had to pick a card, any card, so far, that's the one I'm leaning most toward. Again, it's real early for me to say that with any sort of certainty, but certainly looks like it this far. I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong this time. Now, we've had 24 hours since this happened. The FBI says they've made over 100 interviews, and they're still working on determining a motive for attack as of a press conference that they had this morning. The special agent from the FBI Detroit office, Reuben Coleman, spoke to the media and gave that statement. So they're not making it official yet. But yesterday, if you were on your phone perusing Twitter, man, this game, this ideological bingo game that we now play whenever there's an event like this, it was in full effect. And I used to be under the heading of, hey, let's not really jump on this kind of thing. Let's wait 24 48 hours, and then we'll start having a discussion about motive and whose fault is this and whatever. But I think I'm off that. If they're going to play the game, then damn it, we got to play it back, because I think it's more important that we don't let a false narrative get established than 48 hours try and change everyone's mind, because 48 hours from now, the news isn't going to touch it again if it doesn't fit their narrative. So as ugly as it is, as improper as it is, it's definitely impolite. There's definitely the sort of a lack of humanity in the people that insist on going down this road hardcore, that are sort of forcing your hand here. But yeah, let's play that game. So I am going to go ahead and say tentatively, this was another act of anti-Christian violence. This is going to be a guy that I know lefties are going to tell you, NPR is probably going to tell you, it's another example of right-wing violence. They'll find some way. But some of these things seem to be self-evident. How could it be a MAGA guy that shot Charlie Kirk? Wouldn't being someone who hates Charlie Kirk so much you want to murder him sort of absolve you from being in the MAGA label, right? I mean, like, how conservative can you be if Charlie Kirk throws you into a murderous rage? So not only is it not true, it's something that can't be true. It's like when they were saying at Gitmo that the American interrogators were torturing the poor Muslim inmates at Gitmo, the poor Taliban and Al Qaeda inmates, by flushing a Quran down the toilet. Can you flush a book down the toilet? Go get a book, put it in the toilet, hit flush. Does it go down? No. So not only was it an untrue story, it's an impossible story. So yeah, MAGA people, is that the anti-Christian subgenre within our culture? Quite doubtful. Another thing we need to look at in all these attacks, and I know it feels ugly because it's only been 30 hours or so since this happened, but we have to start playing this game. For the people that want to talk about gun control, let's ask, did this guy get his gun from a gun show loophole? Is there any background checks that would have stopped him? Did he get this gun legally or illegally? What gun control measures that you've proposed or that have been proposed would have stopped this? Is this a guy that has a criminal record? So that adult conversation needs to be had. And look, we're going to spend probably more time on this one because this sort of fits in the larger continuing narrative of anti-Christian violence. And I would guess this guy either has a personal beef with someone in the church and just wanted to raise all hell on his way out, or this was an anti-Christian attack. Another one of those. 800-288-9227. This is Bill in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP. Hey, Bill.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
You guys, you're what causes everything. You won't shut up. You keep putting it all on the news. You hear a little bit of piece of news, and everybody on the damn radio starts hollering this, blah. Just shut up. Don't, let the news go. Everybody, what do you hear? What kind of news you hear? It's all bad. If y'all would just shut up and do nothing, everything be all right.
Yeah, see, that would count if you were just talking to me here, Bill. But if I shut up, everyone else is going to run their mouth, and then our side doesn't get heard.
That's what I say. Everybody.
Oh, well, I can't control them. I can't control them. And if they're going to run their mouth, and they're going to go set the table for all the low information voters on misinformation, and then we got to somehow try and overcome that in the subsequent days when it's not news anymore. That's one of the reasons we're losing this battle. That's one of the reasons they keep shooting at us, is because so much misinformation is out there. And as ugly and distasteful as it feels, Bill, I think we've got to start fighting that, even though it doesn't feel right to do it this soon.
Well, a lot of times you'll announce something and don't even know whether you hear somebody else do it, and it's just some little shooting, and everybody in the whole world knows about it. Just make it specifically one location.
Right, but the lesson here is the stories that they don't report on. Have y'all ever heard of Lawrence Herr? If the name Lawrence Herr doesn't ring a bell, don't feel bad and don't Google it in the meantime. I'll show you coming up in about 4 or 5 minutes on how bad the selective process is for what the media reports on when it comes to these shootings, these ideological hate speech motivated shootings. The story of Lawrence Herr and how it wraps into all these other shootings in the news today. Coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on Newstalk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. A string of shootings over the weekend are adding a lot of context to the string of shootings that we were already experienced before we went into the weekend. Let me give you a quick rundown here. There was the shooting at the LDS Church in Michigan yesterday. There was a boat buy shooting in South Carolina. Not trying to make a light of it. I've just never heard of that before. There was a deadly shooting in Eagle Pass here in Texas that left 2 people dead, 5 wounded over the weekend. And then last week, there was a kids' baseball team that was shot up. Waller County, it's far northwest of Houston. We found out who did that, and when they originally reported, they were like, well, we got 3 suspects in custody, and they didn't name them, and now they come back and they actually named the guys, and so this...
3 men are under arrest after a shooting at a Katy baseball tournament that left a youth coach wounded.
The shooting happened at RAC Katy over the weekend during a tournament. The Waller County Sheriff's Office said Mahmoud Rababa, Ahmad Mawed, and Mustafa Matalga fired guns from a nearby pasture in the direction of the game. A witness from the scene said one of the coaches took a bullet to the shoulder, then immediately went to the ground to cover all nearby kids to keep them safe. He is expected to be okay.
Gee, you don't think that should be a bigger story? Some kids are trying to practice baseball, Little League baseball, while they're praying the coach gets shot. One report said arm. I saw another report that said shoulder. Whatever, but he took a bullet for the kiddos. He had to get helicoptered out of there, and they tried to cover up the suspects for a few days, and then they finally admitted it over the weekend. Okay, it's 3 Muslim immigrants with Arab-sounding names, and actually, I saw Dallas Express, I saw CurrentRevolt.com, I saw Texas Scorecard. It was 3 of the sites that I tell you need to go see on a regular basis. Actually, dig in past where some of the other media platforms were willing to go and say, yeah, actually, they're immigrants here, and 2 of them were legalized under the Biden administration for light and transient status. It's like, oh, well, this is like a K4 visa. It's just something you've never heard of. And so there you go. There's the reporting on that. There was a 16-year-old that was killed 9 days ago in an accidental shooting in Oak Cliff. That somehow makes the news. There were also 2 arrested here in North Texas after a road rage shooting left a man dead in Denton at a QT. So there's a lot of shootings that are going on, and some get more attention than others. Have you ever heard of Lawrence Herr? I find this to be a especially important story because you are told that all these media outlets and all these politicians and all these celebrities and musicians and activists care so much about racism, and they care so much about people who are just so enraged with hatred for people based on the color of the skin that they would literally be going out to murder them. And they claim that this is what they're against. Hell, they put it in the end zone of the football games that we had to watch this weekend. It takes all of us in racism, all that dumb stuff, right? Well, then you actually have one of these super rare instances happen 2 years ago, and it gets ignored. We go back to 2023. This is in the New Orleans area. A shooting that happened
referred to as Salt of the Earth and affectionately nicknamed Peanut. That's how a Metairie maintenance worker who was shot and killed on Monday is being remembered. Today, Kenner police revealed there was no motive behind the murder of 66-year-old Lawrence Herr.
All right, so then a couple days later, after the story dies down and no one's going to report on it anymore, the police have a press conference and say that there is a motive.
Through some of the confession of Taj Matthews, who admitted to taking part in the homicide, that they did want to commit a murder that day, and specifically they've ruled out Hispanics, and they said it was going to be a white person.
Oh, really? Tell me more, Chief Conley.
Later in the confession, they did indicate that they were specifically not only looking to kill somebody, but they wanted it to be a white person. So that would set up the charge of a hate crime.
Yeah, for all you people who care about racial hate crimes. You have a guy who was murdered specifically for being white. Not only did it happen, they confessed and admitted it. And you get crickets. Meanwhile, Derek Chauvin is arresting a dude who's overdosing on fentanyl and meth at the same time after passing a counterfeit $20 bill with a rap sheet longer than Sean's left arm over there. And y'all go ahead and you can infer race into that. The people who see racism in a Sydney Sweeney ad and are horrified. Serena Williams can see racism in a branch from a cotton bush and see racism, but you ignore this BS. This is Daryl in Dallas. You're on WBAP.
Oh, hey, thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it. First of all, I'm an evangelical Christian. I'm 70 years old. The only about the LDS shooting yesterday. The only thing I would classify is, to be really strictly honest, I wouldn't classify the LDS church as a Christian church. That doesn't make it any difference. I do think that the best way to coin it is trying to think, people of faith. In other words, it's if like the synagogues that have been shot and other things, all of it's bad. As far as we don't,
Well, it's
like
a branch
said,
of Christianity that you don't recognize, but it's still a branch of Christianity.
That's
You disagree with their dogma, but nevertheless, they're Christian. Maybe they're Christians who are following a dogma that doesn't fly with you, but they believe in the Bible plus an extra book, and they believe in Jesus, and they believe in that, everything that Christians believe in, plus this extra stuff.
They believe that all members are equal to Jesus, and that they're all going to be, all the men are going to be gods, and that
they're going to get their own planet and all this stuff, right? But that doesn't mean this wasn't anti-Christian violence. They just killed the Christians that wear weird underwear.
Here, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And like I said, the only thing I would say is and I know everybody looks for a motive, and a lot of times it's just whatever. But you don't know. There's, and I'm not pointing at LDS, but the young man that shot Charlie Kirk was raised Mormon. Now that doesn't mean he was a practicing Mormon now, but his family are very devout Mormons. So I don't know if there's any connection there, and I don't even know if we should read anything into it. The one thing that I would say in all the shootings that you just mentioned, just since you came back a few minutes ago in Texas, it's amazing how much substance is involved. The one that was at the QT and the Denton, it's like, the guy's intoxicated, and he's upset because somebody bumped his whatever, it's just a missile over a gas pump, and somebody shoots and kills someone. I mean, that horrible part, and we've got to get back to people of reasonable faith, and good people, and make good decisions. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate your show, and thank you for taking my call.
All right. Well, a lot of good perspective. Appreciate it. That's Daryl in Dallas, 800-288-9227 if you want to jump in on the conversation. Coming up next, we're going to hear from one of my favorite guests on the James Show, Elsa Kirk. You might know her as Blonde Kamala, but we got to have her back on because Kamala's doing the media circuits for her new book, and it makes a whole lot of fun sound bites, and Elsa will make you laugh. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, you want to hear some fun Kamala Harris sound bites? Just stick around. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. She's on a whirlwind media tour because her book came out. And this isn't any sort of book that she has been, inspired to write based on some topic that she really feels passionate about. She was the vice president who lost the presidential election, so she got a multi-bazillion-dollar book deal, and so she had to crank something out, is the basis of this. So it's going to be, nothing with gravitas, no heavy topics, no deep research, nothing drastic. It's just going to be, I don't know, like 200 pages of Kamala. Good Lord, who would want to read that? A couple things that have been noticed already on her circuit here as she's going through and talking to everyone is she seems to be getting asked the same questions by everyone, which betrays its evidence that she's handing the questions out. She's telling the people what they should ask her. And then her answers are all the same to all the questions. So this whole damn thing is just a script. It's just a show. It's just straight up theater here. This isn't a real interview. Hang on. Here's a montage of the first 3 interviews spliced together. And you'll see same questions, same answered. It's all fake.
A president of the United States running for re-election. Current sitting president is running for re-election. Running for re-election. 3.5 months from the election, decides not to run. 3.5 months from the election, he decides not to run. 3.5 months before the election, decides not to run. With 107 days to go. With 107 days. Yeah. With 107 days to go. And it ended up being the closest presidential election in the 21st century.
It's all, she can't even do an interview without having the questions preordained. My next guest, perfect person for a time like this, Elsa Kurt, coming back on the James Show. You might also know her as Blonde Kamala, who entertained us relentlessly during the election cycle. Welcome back, Elsa. Yeah, so your reaction to the Kamala Harris media tour, will you be getting the book? Does she have any future whatsoever left in politics? Well, we've seen sort of a mixed bag come from the people who've lost presidential elections, whether or not they continue having a political career. John Kerry lost in 2004, went right back to being a senator, and then was Secretary of State under Obama and all that. John McCain lost, went back to the Senate from Arizona, stayed there until he died. Mitt Romney lost. He went back to a Senate in another state that he wasn't even at before. And I think he's still there. And so, like, these guys don't always disappear. Now, Hillary, when she lost, she's like, I'm going to go the Clinton Foundation route and just start raising hundreds of millions of dollars for myself here. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Hillary didn't stick around after she lost, but that's not the norm. So I don't know. I'm just trying to get a feel on if we've seen the last of Kamala Harris in politics. And don't say she can't do it, because one of the more successful talk show hosts right now is Sherry Shepherd, and she doesn't even know if the world's flat. I don't know if you remember that from The View. She was asked, is the world flat? She said, I don't know. Well, have you not thought about it? She's like, well, I've been busy raising my kids. You can do both. Yeah, Elsa Kurt, your reaction to the Charlie Kirk shooting. You know, you're kind of in a similar vein as someone who is outspoken on social media and in videos and whatnot, raising the ire of some of these people who think you're literally Hitler. What's your reaction to him dying? You a little concerned about yourself? Elsa, can I get you for one more segment here? I want to run two audio clips by you and get the reaction of the great blonde Kamala from the Elsa Kurt show. Can you hang on for one more? Okay, you'll hear two more fun sound bites from Kamala Harris on her media book tour and Elsa Kurt's response to them on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. Want to hear some funny Kamala Harris sound bites from her book tour? I have those coming, and the great Kamala Harris, or blonde Kamala Harris, Elsa Kurtz, continuing with us on the James Show. Hey, Elsa. All right, I'm going to play this for you and the guy listening to us at the same time, and then I'm going to get your response to it. There's a part in the book where Kamala Harris uses the V word. Now, I had two options on playing this on the show. I could go get the audiobook version where it's Kamala's voice saying it, but for some reason, I found this more entertaining to use Rachel Maddow quoting this to Kamala Harris during her Kamala Harris interview.
I was not about to take Trump's bait. He lies all the time, I told Brian. He throws out outrageous statements to distract from the real issues. Quote, today he wants me to prove my race. What next? He'll say I'm not a woman and I need to show my vagina?
All right, go ahead, Elsa. That's yours. Isn't it? Go ahead. Well, it's kind of common practice for a lot of people to use a ghostwriter when they're doing these little memoir things. So I don't necessarily hold that against her, but I feel like that's actually some of her content that she wanted to be put in there. And I think a lot of people are pointing out, my initial reaction was, well, what would that matter if you showed him that? Because these things are not connected. Your body doesn't determine whether or not you're a man or a woman, I thought, in your worldview. So I was kind of confused by that, Elsa. All right, Elsa Kurtz / blonde Kamala. Here's another clip from the Kamala Harris interview on Rachel Maddow.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad. But I also realized it would be a real risk, no matter how. I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but. We had such a short.
Yeah, it wasn't any prejudice on her part. It was because we're all prejudiced. Yes. It sounds very Kamala-like. So, Elsa Kurt, in the absence of being able to be blonde Kamala, how have you filled that void in your comedic life? All right. How do they find your work online, Elsa Kurt? Well, it's good chatting with you again, Blonde Kamala / Elsa Kurt on The James Show. Coming up next, we seem to be headed for another government shutdown scare tactic. I actually hope it shuts down as long as possible. I'll explain next. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Who is scared of a government shutdown? Not me. James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP, your new home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Listen like I do. They come on right before me. There's some funny guys, and 11 to 2. Find out what all the rage is about. Check them out on WBAP right before the James Show. But this whole government shutdown thing is something that this is where I really feel divorced from both major political parties. This is where it comes up the most. Budget. I love what the Republicans and Donald Trump have done when it comes to the border. I love what Donald Trump and the Republicans have done when it comes to, reinstituting classic societal norms. I like what they've done on extending the tax cuts from 2017. But this is where the strongest reason I don't register as a Republican is because the Republicans don't really want smaller government. I think government should be smaller. There's about an 80% chance, if you're listening to WBAP right now, you think government should be smaller too. Neither party represents us. Right now, we have a party that wants to grow government, and we have another party that wants to grow government even faster. Now, when they say this is a clean, continuing resolution, that means they're not adding or taking away anything. They're just continuing the exact same baseline that the budget was on previously. I don't know if you remember that, but that baseline was set by the Joe Biden administration, and then we had the first government shutdown scare tactic happen at the end of January. And what did they do? They kicked the can. They voted to continue just through the rest of the year the Biden spending levels. Now, when I say the Biden spending levels, the baseline, we're still doing baseline budgeting. We didn't freeze spending. It's just going to go up at the same 7%. It's always been slated to go up every year. Now, Democrats want to add actually more spending to that. Some of that is changing the work requirements back for welfare and then the Obamacare streamlining that happened. Some of it's just some absolutely new spending. But this is where I get disgusted with both parties. Now, Democrats worse than the Republicans, but Republicans get my contempt in this issue as well. And it's a great example of that. Here's J.D. Vance yesterday talking about the government shutdown, chastising the Democrats.
Well, look, we don't want to shut down the government, Martha, but it's really up to the Democrats. Under our system, you need 60 Senate Democrats to vote for the clean continuing resolution that the president and House Republicans have put forward. I think it's preposterous, Martha, and I think the American people really should pay attention to the fact that Democrats are threatening to shut down the entire government because they want to give hundreds of billions of dollars of health care benefits to illegal aliens. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a political party actually advertising the fact that they want to shut down every essential function of government, and they want to use that as leverage so that they get more money for illegal alien health care benefits. It's such a stark contrast between Republicans who are trying to put the interests of the American people first and Democrats who I think would want to take money from the American people to give benefits to illegal aliens. We don't want to shut down the government, but if Democrats refuse to just pass this clean continuing resolution, that's exactly what's going to happen, and I think the Democrats are going to bear the responsibility for it.
Let me tell you why that's an unacceptable answer. Number one, you know that they're going to oppose anything you want. Anything you put out there, they're going to oppose it. So why not balance a budget and propose that? They're going to fight, they're going to cry, they're going to whine. You're not even trying to balance the budget. You're not even trying to reduce the deficit or reduce spending. You're just going to keep it at the certain levels and hope the economy can grow enough that maybe the deficit will come down. Not because you spent less, it's just because me and you got a little more productive at our jobs. Who is the party that actually wants to cut government? There's not one. For all the people I hear about, so-and-so's a threat to democracy, or Trump's a threat to democracy, or the Republicans are a threat, or MAGA's a threat to democracy. How about the fact that no one in your entire life has been able to go to the ballot box and vote for a party that would actually make government smaller? We have the choice between bigger government or even bigger government. That's not a threat to democracy, that the American people never get a choice to reduce the power of the people in D.C.? That's a threat to democracy. That is a road to authoritarianism. That's a road to tyranny. Government just infinitely grows. Remember, every time government grows, the private sector shrinks. Every new power the government has is a power that's taken away from you. And that counts just for spending dollars. Every time that they have to print money to fill in the deficit because they spent more than they took in, you're getting a pay cut. I'm getting a pay cut. Our paychecks buy less. The things we're trying to buy cost more. And no other issue affects you more directly than the budget. I know it's not as tangible as seeing a bullet go through someone's neck, but it is just as real. The real reason the middle class can't get ahead is inflation. The real reason why the poor are getting poorer is because inflation. The real reason for the people who gripe about how minimum wage isn't a living wage, yeah, that's because we had inflation, geniuses. And there have been arguments made that the average busboy who was making minimum wage in 1960, if he worked a little bit of overtime, he could afford the median house. He could afford a mortgage payment on a median single-family home in America in 1960. The reason why the lowest among us, even in unskilled work, can barely afford an apartment now is inflation. I know you can't see it directly. I know it doesn't get sexy headlines. I know there's no girl in a bikini. I know there's no scary guns or there's no riots or nothing's on fire. But this is ruining my life and it's ruining your life. And neither party is helping you with that. There's one party that wants to give you a 3% pay cut this year. There's another party that wants to give you a 5% pay cut this year. And you can go vote as hard as you want for either one of the two parties, and you're not going to get a break. I find this quite disappointing. If you're a limited government guy, if you are a conservative and you live by conservative principles, wouldn't you be bragging about shutting down the government? And of course, again, that's a misnomer. The government's not shutting down. Like maybe 27% of the workers are going to be temporarily furloughed, get a 2-week vacation, and then they'll get all their back pay. You're not getting a break even if the government gets shut down. We're not even saving any money if the government gets shut down. It's going to cost us more. If you want a government to be smaller, wouldn't you say, hell yeah, shut it down and keep it shut down? And J.D. Vance is, look, he sounded like Democrats on that. Well, they want to cut essential services. Look, anything that can be cut it and don't bring it back. Anything that's not an essential service, cut it and don't bring it back. Anything that is being done by the federal government that is not in the Constitution under Article 1, Section 8, where it specifically enumerates like 18 things the federal government can do. If it's outside of that, cut it and don't bring it back. So yeah, I'm talking about housing and urban development. I'm talking about the Department of Education. And I'm not talking about shut down that building, but we'll just move the Pell Grants and the student loans under the Department of Treasury. No, I mean, get rid of all those dumb functions that they've been doing that has screwed up our education system. But the Republicans aren't doing it. What's the point of voting for Republicans? If you want smaller government, who do you vote for? How do you justify voting for either major party? I don't. And until we have enough people who are just willing to say, I don't care who wins or loses the next election, I am not voting against my principles anymore. I am going to put my foot down on what the founding fathers envisioned for this country and demand my betters put that into practice. Or I'm going to either vote them out in the primary, and if they still win their primary, I'm going to vote third party. I don't care if it's the Constitution Party or the Libertarian Party, or we have like Sean makes up his own party. We'll join that one. But stop voting for this and stop supporting it and speak out against it. And if you're on the right, I expect you to speak out against this. Democrats, you're lost. You want government to be big. You love government. That's fine. But my limited government conservative friends, please follow your principles on this and speak out against this and demand we reduce the size of government. Continuing the Joe Biden spending levels through this entire year, and we're going to hit it in October, which means all y'all lied to me back in January when I said we put our foot down now. They're like, no, this is just till the end of the year. Well, here we are, and now they're just going to keep kicking that can. So I was right back in January. People who told me I was wrong, you owe me an apology. I'm not going to get it. That's okay. Can we just live up to our principles when it comes to this one issue? Because it's killing me, and it's killing you, whether you realize it or not. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Are you scared of a government shutdown? I'm not. We'll continue with that on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. It's your chance to win part of $5K a day on WBAP. Your chance at $1,000 right now. Pay off some bills. Just text RICH to 95819. That's RICH, RICH, to 95819, and you could score $1,000. Sponsored locally by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm. Good luck. Who's scared of a shutdown? Are you scared of a shutdown? I'm not. I cheer for these things. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And we have the normal thing that goes on. We have to do this every, 6 months or so. We got to pretend like both sides are scared of a shutdown, and it would be terrible. And so when Democrats are in power, the Republicans get blamed. And when Republicans are in power, the Republicans get blamed. I mean, that's what happens when you control the media and the narrative here. But listen, I've always found that if you are the party that represents people who think government should be smaller, shouldn't you be cheering a government shutdown? Wouldn't you love a government shutdown? Because whenever I see these things, they're like, well, we're going to have all non-essential services just put on hold until we can get a budget deal worked out. How about we have all non-essential services fired and the offices closed, never to be refunded again? You mean we're doing non-essential services? At your work, do you have any non-essential services that you're paying for? Why is it that the government gets to grow by 7% every year just a guarantee? Does our population grow by 7% every year? Does the landmass, the territorial borders of the United States grow by 7% every year? Well, then by what morality, ethics, standard, or logic does the government grow by 7% every year? And so kicking the can isn't status quo. Kicking the can is growing government. Maintaining current spending levels are growing government. And we're growing government that already has a deficit that's over $1 trillion a year. And before COVID happened, we only had $1 trillion a year deficit. That was during the Obama Porculus package, which was supposed to bring us out of the recession from the financial crisis. It just kind of held our head underwater for about 4 years. And I don't say that as some sort of mean metaphor. It took the S&P 4 years to recover from that after the package passed. So no, it didn't help us rebound at all. Look at how quickly we rebounded in April. Was there any new giant legislative changes passed? Was there any big stimulus package that was passed when our markets dropped 20% in April? No, not at all. In fact, we had negative GDP growth for the first quarter as well. Without any stimulus, where are we at now? Markets at all-time highs. GDP growth just got revised up to 3.8%. And I know it's not sexy. I know there's not any boobs involved or children involved or guns involved or drugs involved or celebrities involved. So it's not a sexy topic, but I promise you, this is what affects you and your family the most out of all the stuff we talk about. You know, like the shooting that happened in Michigan, that's terrible. Does it directly affect you? Absolutely not. Does it indirectly affect you? Ooh, boy, that'd be a real stretch if you were going to try to make a connection there. But for every dollar that they spend that they don't take in, you are getting a pay cut. Here's the bad part about it. I recognize it. I have my economic philosophy that recognizes this as something bad that needs to be solved. And I'm stuck with the economic system that the voters want. So I have to get stuck with these bad policies as well. And Democrats, is there any growth of government that you would oppose? And I know military spending, like that part of government. But like, is there any point to where the overall spending you think, that's too big? Is there any annual deficit where you would think, that's too big? Is there any level of inflation where you think, I guess we need to cut government here because that's too tough on the middle class and the poor? Because the rich people don't get hurt by inflation nearly as much as you and me. The wealthiest among us have assets that rise with inflation. You know, that's one of the big important parts about owning a home that can take you out of the bottom class into the middle class is, you can go buy a house 10 years ago at $200,000. And then after the inflation that we've seen, it's worth $400,000. So that way, when you leave that house, you actually can cash out and take some of that money with you. You can actually have, while it does hurt you in the meantime, you do get some sort of benefit from inflation at some point. But that Think about all the assets that the top people have. They own these big buildings downtown. They own the golf course that you play on. They own all these other things that when they go and they sell them, they've appreciated with the declining power of the dollar. And it kind of works in their favor if you're asset based. But here's the real ugly part. It's the people at the bottom that can't get ahead. If you're renting, you don't get to cash in. If you don't own any assets, you don't get to cash in. If you don't have $100,000 in the stock market, you don't have any sort of hedge where that, at least this part of your portfolio rises with inflation as a default. This is the most important issue that affects you the most, and both parties are failing you drastically. You shouldn't be scared of a government shutdown. You should be cheering a government shutdown. And you should go through, when you get a chance, you should read Article 1, Section 8. It gives Congress 18 powers that the federal government can do. And you'll see that most of what we do, more than 70% of the spending that we do at the federal level is unconstitutional. We're not supposed to be providing Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. We're not supposed to be providing a Department of Education and student loans and Pell Grants. We're not supposed to be the housing and urban development and doing Section 8 housing and public housing. We're not supposed to be doing all that. And if we go back and just cut off all this tribal team red, team blue nonsense, and we forget who said what, and just drop it and stick with our principles and return this government to what the founding fathers intended. We return this government to the Constitution. Half of your problems will stop. The other half will stop when we solve the problem of babies being born out of wedlock, but that's the other side of the issue. This is your fiscal problems. There's your societal problems. Who's representing you? Nobody. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Lisa Miller from Lisa W. Miller and Associates, who's going to talk about the economy. And the Commerce Department had a new report this morning talking about inflation. You'll find out how it affects your money next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. How bad is inflation hurting your wallet right now? We're about to answer that on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Now, the lead-in show. Yes, they are my opening act. You'll never know what they will say or do next. And the whole crew's back together after a brief medical absence. Robbins is back on. So check them out, 11 to 2 here on WBAP. My next guest is going to put a little more detail on, look, I wish stories like this got more attention because it definitely affects you. All this economic fiscal stuff, this is why you're having a hard time paying bills, especially compared to 5 years ago. Lisa Miller, welcome back on The James Show. She's from Lisa W. Miller and Associates. How bad is the U.S. economy still going through inflation? Well, the second quarter GDP number got revised up a bunch. Wasn't it like a 0.5%, which sounds like a small number, but as far as GDP revisions, that's huge. Then that sounds like it would be overwhelmingly good news if not for the inflation. You know, Gen X usually gets overlooked in these surveys, so thank you for including us, Lisa Miller. So, how does this compare to where we were, say, like a year ago? Well, Lisa Miller, my experience is I live in both worlds. You know, I work here in downtown Dallas. I have a house out in Bug Tussle, middle of nowhere. And the people in the city are real nervous and anxious and worried about crime, looking over the shoulder and what was that noise. The people who live out in the middle of nowhere are just chill. We don't have a violence problem out there. We don't have a crime problem out there. We don't have things that are locked up at the CVS because crime is so bad. So it seems to be a huge disparity in your geography on whether or not you're happy with the way things are going. I would love to see that too. I've never seen hard data on that. Send it, James at WBAP.com. That's my email. Okay, Lisa? Interesting. All right. Well, you can find her book, The Business of Joy, on Amazon. If you need some of her services, Lisa W. Miller. Thank you very much for being on the James Show again. Yeah. Email me that survey. I would love to see it. All right. Coming up next on the James Show, the Dallas police at the end of last week rounded up 118 sex offenders. Coming up next, I'm going to ask, why were they out to begin with? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. I know, good to see you too. Hey, have a good weekend? Does anyone else get just absolutely floored when they hear headlines like this? When they hear headlines that say, Dallas police rounded up 118 sex offenders over the weekend. So hang on a second. Actually, I saw this on Friday, so it wasn't over the weekend. But Dallas police had one of those little task force operations where they went out and they gave it some cool name, like, I don't know. I don't want to joke about it. But 118 sex offenders. They put together a task force. They went through the list. They're like, here's some sex offenders that are out. They have warrants outstanding. This is where they're at. Let's go round them up. And I don't mean this as a rhetorical question. Someone explain this to me. Probably a cop. If you're a cop and you've never called into the show, this might have to be your first call. Because I'm not saying this because like I'm a smart aleck who just trying to be sarcastic here. I really want to know. Why didn't they pick them up already? What are you guys doing? What happens? You have a sex offender that is at large for a current charge, and y'all wait to pick him up until you do a task force? You don't go send someone out there? And the reason why, like, there's a push and a pull on this story for me personally. How much of this applies to you? Because number one, on the push, if we're not sending out cops to pick up 118 sex offenders that are just roaming the streets of Dallas proper, what the hell are they for? What are we doing? Because y'all have the manpower to go give me a ticket for parking too far away from the curb on Crowdish Street on a Wednesday. You understand that? Like Crowdish and Elm, like if you keep going north on Crowdish, there's nothing over there. You're starting to kind of get into like the parking lots of that Baylor Hospital, and then there's a couple of apartments over there. There's like Reno's, and that's it. So I'm not even on a busy street. I'm not blocking traffic. God forbid I'm too far away from the curb when I parallel parked. I was just trying to get a place that didn't have a meter on it. Thought I had a freebie. But y'all have time to go give me a chintzy, trifling $45 ticket for some nuanced parking violation while 118 sex offenders are roaming the street? How about we take the little ticket printer and just slap it out of the hands of the meter maid and give them the list of where all the pervs are, the criminal pervs? No, it's more important. Well, you don't get revenue that way. Yeah. It's more important that you go stick me for $45 for a light and transient parking violation. They go pick up 118 sex offenders. I do not understand this. This is a part of law enforcement that I don't get. How about all hands on deck until we have all the sex offenders off the street? And I don't mean like all of them in the concept that there will be no sex offender left, but the ones who we know who they are, they violated the law, they're on the list, they're registered, we know where they're at, and they're currently wanted again for a new crime. Until we get all those dudes, how about we lay off the Wednesday parking tickets? No? I'd see this. Does this make sense to you? I realize we should be able to do both things. There has to be a part of the Dallas Police Department that enforces parking. There has to be a part of the Dallas Police Department that goes and rounds up for real criminals. There has to be another part of Dallas Police Department that responds to calls for when someone gets in a car wreck or there's a domestic violence or things like that. But I mean, this is some pretty dangerous stuff here. This is far more important to the well-being of our community. We had 118 sex offenders, and we weren't going to get them until we just did this task force. So I really feel like I'm missing some details, and there's going to be a cop that calls in and explains it to me. Because I just don't, like when I have a cognitive dissonance, I just can't let it go like some people. You probably can't either. I mean, you're listening to talk radio. You're more concerned with issues than the average Joe. But that seems like such a scary situation for someone like me. I have a wife and two daughters. In fact, I have a beautiful wife. Hi, Miss Parker. And I don't want her walking around this town when there's 118 known sex offenders that could have been scooped up with a fishnet. What is going on? Is this not that important? And, you know, I think I'm about to get, I hope I'm about to get some information that makes me feel a whole lot better. Because I remember one time I went on a rant on the James Show when someone came out with a report, and yeah, it was from a lefty group, and so it was sensationalist or whatever. They were like, there are 40,000 untested rape kits in the state of Texas, and there's been 40,000 women who have gotten raped, and they've gotten tested, and they got the swab, or I don't even know what the test entails, and they haven't finished running it through the lab. And I was like, well, that's scary as hell. And then there's actually a rational explanation for that. Like, if they confess, there's no need to run the kit through the lab and get the expense on the taxpayer for something that he already confessed to. If he's already going down for another crime, they're not actually going to charge him with the rape. It'll get put on hold for that. There were actually some good excuses on that one. You know, like if the case fell apart before it got to the testing phase, or if it was shown to be someone else. You know, there was actually an explanation on why we do have such a backlog. Because I was going on the radio saying, hey, listen, we don't need to do anything else until we get all the rape kits tested. The untested rape kits, whatever the backlog is, let that be our first priority here. Because look, the likelihood that I'm going to get raped is pretty much nil unless I go to prison. But I care about the women in our society. I care, and it's not just Miss Parker and the Parkerettes, you know, the little Parkers. It's all the women out there. It's your wife, it's your mom, it's your daughters, it's your cousins, it's your coworkers. That kind of freaks me out, knowing that there were 118 sex offenders just walking around out there. So, you know, 2 questions. Number 1, why aren't we picking them up anyway? And how do you justify having manpower to do some of these other trifling police efforts while this is still going on, while there's this much unpunished crime and this much with criminals on the loose out there? And we could just round them up. We could just round them up. I feel like I'm missing something. Can you help me out? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And coming up next on The James Show, the other big local news story that has me scared for the women in my life walking around in North Texas society. Coming up on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, on your new home for Markley Van Camp in Robbins. You never know what they're going to say or do next, so check them out before the James Show, 11 to 2 on WBAP. Also coming up in the next segment, we're playing Dead or Alive. But I was asking the question, if you're just joining us, I get a little freaked out when I see headlines that say Dallas police round up 118 known sex offenders in a sting operation this week. And I was thinking, well, what were we all doing the day before? Why were they out to begin with? Why didn't we pick them up? Did we need a sting operation to pick them up? You know, like we have the info. You can't just like go send a cop out there without a sting operation. And I really feel like it's just ignorance on my part, not the pejorative use of the word, but literally, I just don't know enough about law enforcement to understand why this is the process. And it freaks me out a little bit. So maybe John and Keller can help. Hey, John, you're on WBAP.
Well, my topic is a little bit parallel to that, but, you know, with all the governors from the blue states around, like California and Illinois and many others, I just heard them all, a montage saying that you should be aware of ICE agents wearing masks and protest them. So they're basically trying to say, don't, you know, get in the way and don't let them do their job. Don't let them round people up. It'll make it harder to do. Just like you were talking about, why was it not done yesterday? And I would like to suggest that maybe our governor send a message to those governors that ask them not to come into our state because we don't want them here since they don't support law enforcement.
You know, the wild part about that is the videos that you've seen on your social media feed of these goobers that get in front of an ICE SUV in the middle of the road, and they'll lean on the bumper and they'll make the guy go like 1 mile an hour. And this group of protesters is like pushing against the car like that's going to do any good and slowly walking backwards. And so they're like, stop, you're going to run me over. Well, then get out of the road. Like all of those people. Here's the solution. This sounds so easy, John and Keller. Every single person that pushed on that car needs to get handcuffed. They need to get arrested. They need to spend a year in jail.
Agreed.
Whatever the January 6ers got, those idiots should get too.
And then the governors that are supporting them doing that sort of thing should end up getting something as well.
Well, I like how you brought this up when I was talking about the sting operation here too, because I have a feeling that the genesis of there being 118 people on the streets that are known sex offenders, that's something that needs to be addressed too. How did they get out in the first place? Because one of the scary parts about sex offenders is the recidivism rate is through the roof, which means, you start to ask the question, why do we ever let these people out? If they have a recidivism rate that's like 100%, how do you justify letting these people out? And so I don't know. Do they just want agents of chaos to terrorize us, and so we act in fear and look to our political overlords for more security? What's the real answer for that? Do they think sex crimes are not important? I don't have the answer to that. Those are not rhetorical questions there, John.
Yeah, I agree. I don't either. I just that you see all of the Greasy Newsom just passed a bill or signed a bill out there that ICE agents cannot wear a mask because they'll be
isn't that wild?
By their families. Yeah,
John and Keller, they're out there saying, why do they have to wear a mask? Well, maybe because you're shooting at them. How about that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and also so their families won't be in danger when they're identified.
Well, that's a little bit of help there in understanding the situation. Do you have any law enforcement background? Do you understand the nuance of why they do this through sting operations and not just go send Officer Randall to this address? There's a sex offender there that we know about. Like, what's the sting operation point?
I have no experience with that at all. So
yeah,
really
all right. Well, neither do I. But, John, you brought up some good points there. Because that's another thing that needs to be addressed. How are these idiots on the street in the first place? Because I hear the horror stories about how sex offender charges are misused or overused. Like something scary happened. I used to work at this moving company a long time ago when I was in college. And it was up in like Farmers Branch. And we had gotten off of a job. And I didn't go, but the rest of my crew went to a Hooters. The one that used to be on Beltline up there. It's not there anymore. And they were there for a little while. And when my friend Pat had to go back to his car, he decided that he was going to relieve himself between the two cars. He almost got charged with a sex crime for public urination because I guess he was exposed. No one saw. He's between two cars behind a Hooters. And so that was scary because he would have to register as a sex offender. And if people go Google his name, that's going to pop up now for the rest of his life. Well, that's scary as hell. And then it makes me want to slap myself in the forehead so hard it leaves a handprint when I find out that there's 118 sex offenders that are just wandering around the streets of Dallas. No big deal. And that's 118 just in Dallas. That's not counting Fort Worth and Plano and Arlington and Irving and Mesquite and Garland and all these other places. Holy crap. So what do we have? Like thousands of sex offenders who should be in jail right now? And you guys are worried about Pat taking a leak behind a restaurant? Ponderous stuff, man. I do not understand a lot of the news that I pass along to you. And I want to know. I don't just want to talk out of the side of my neck for entertainment purposes. I would like to understand this issue because that's kind of freaks me out. But coming up next on the James Show, we're going to play Dead or Alive. You should be interested in this prize today. We're playing for 2 tickets to see Megyn Kelly live at Dickies Arena October 25th. Now, special guests Glenn Beck, Mark Halperin, and Link Lauren. Get tickets at MegynKelly.com, and she spells it funny. I'll give away some tickets in the next segment. If you want to try and win them, call in right now, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. In the next segment, we'll play Dead or Alive. Today's category, it's going to be the Charlie edition in honor of the great Charlie Kirk. Everyone on the list is going to be named Charles or Chuck or Charlie or something to that effect. But this event, Megyn Kelly live at Dickies Arena, special guest Glenn Beck. You know, I've been to some of these events. I've been to a Glenn Beck tour before. It's actually pretty cool. It kind of fills in that social space that used to be reserved for concerts. But now we don't go to concerts because, dude, I'm almost 50. This is kind of same thing. You get to go see a live event. It's something you're interested in, something you're passionate about, but you get to be in nice air conditioning, you know, so you're not just sweaty, rubbing up against some other sweaty strangers. So that's cool. You get to have a comfortable seat so everyone's not standing around or jumping around, or sometimes you're in a theater and everyone stands up, so you have to stand up. And it's a little more intelligent, isn't it? Man, here's an old man story. A friend of mine in Houston got some tickets to go see some hardcore German techno band last week here in Dallas, and he couldn't go, so he sent me the tickets. I'm like, I don't want to go. I've never heard of these people. I guess I like techno or whatever, but Brutalismus 3000, never heard of them. He's like, listen, man, they're like one of my favorite bands. You got to go. Here's the tickets. They're like $100 a piece. I just don't want them to go to waste. Just go and tell me if it was good or not. So I was like, it's right by my work. I'll go after I get done with all these other errands. And so I waited for a band to go on at like midnight on a Thursday. So when you're 48, that's ridiculous. I bought a t-shirt for my buddy and left. But boy, if you want to feel old, go to a concert on a Thursday and tell me that's still your scene. It's not. Megyn Kelly live at Dickies Arena October 25th with Glenn Beck, Mark Halperin, and Link Lauren. Yeah, it's probably a little more your speed. But we'll be giving away the tickets next. Don't bother calling. Lines are already full for Dead or Alive coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Now, hey, football fans, don't turn it yet. You got to hear my story from Prize Picks this weekend because I got really saucy on Prize Picks. By the way, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. I say you can do a lineup of 2 to 6 people. I did 4. I don't normally do that, but I felt so strongly about what I saw when I was putting my lineup together that I was like, certainly this will work out for me. So I had the max discount square. Jalen Hurts' statistic was 0.5 passing yards. He passed for 130, which isn't a gangbuster day, but it's enough to win the square. CJ Stroud, now he's the quarterback for the Houston Texans, which is a terrible team, but they were playing an even worse team. So I picked him to get a touchdown pass. He won it for me. Dak Prescott, he only needed to get 1 touchdown pass to win. He got 3. And then you know what else I did? You may think less of me. I just want to be honest with you. I picked the Micah Parsons square. 0.75 sacks. I picked more. And he got that one chintzy little sack on the last drive of the game. And it was only like a sack by about 4 inches because Dak almost got back to the line of scrimmage. My lineup won. Now, here's where I wussed out. I only bet I only paid $5 for the lineup, so I got $22.50 in winnings. But hey, come on now. That's a good day for me. So that's all it takes. That's how you make a lineup. That's how you turn a little bit of money into up to 2,000 times your money. Download the PrizePicks app. Use promo code WBAP. And you get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. Download PrizePicks. Use promo code WBAP. Get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Who wants to win some Megyn Kelly tickets? It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. You are just in time for the James Show game show, Dead or Alive. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome to Dead or Alive. This is the James Show game show where I'm going to list 10 celebrities. You have to tell me if they're dead or alive. James, that sounds pretty easy. It is pretty easy. It's like a 50-50 shot on each one of these. Today's category is Charles. So everyone's going to be a Charles, Charlie, Chuck, something to that effect. I'm pretty excited about the prize for today is Dead or Alive. 2 tickets to see Megyn Kelly live at Dickies Arena on October 25th. Special guest Glenn Beck, Mark Halperin, and Link Lauren. Get tickets at megankelly.com. I'm going to try and go to that, and Garrett, we're going to try and have her on the show when she gets in town too. So that would be cool. No, there's no chance you get to hold hands with her or anything. You just get to look at her from afar, weirdos. But let's see if I can give away some tickets here. Let's start with Aaron, spelled with an E in Roy City, so I assume this is a woman. Hey, Aaron.
Hello.
Hey. All right, you sound chipper. Are you ready for today's edition of Dead or Alive?
Yes.
We're going to start off with an easy one, just to kind of get you warmed up. Aaron,
Okay.
What about Charlie Chaplin? Is he dead or alive?
Dead.
Yeah. Died the year I was born, actually. Charles Bronson, dead or alive?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, Charles Bronson. You know Death Wish and all that? Dead or alive?
Hello.
Hello?
I'm here.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, Charles Bronson, dead or alive?
Alive?
Charles Bronson died in 2003. You must be young.
I don't know who he is.
Yeah. You sound a little too young to know that one. Well, be happy with your youth. It's more important than knowing these dumb celebrities. Lauren in Flower Mound, you're on Dead or Alive. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Chuck Berry, dead or alive?
Dead.
Charlie Sheen, dead or alive?
Alive.
Barely. Charles Schultz, dead or alive? You know who that is? The Peanuts guy? He did Snoopy and Charlie Brown and all that?
Yeah. I think he's dead.
Yeah, he died in 2000. Charlie Watts, the drummer for the Rolling Stones, dead or alive?
He's dead.
Yeah, former drummer for the Rolling Stones. I just didn't want to give it away. Charlie Daniels, dead or alive?
Oh, I think he's still alive.
Died in 2020. Lauren, you were doing so well. Thank you for playing, sir. Have fun in Flower Mound. Let's go to Richard and Richard's son. What'd they name the town after you, Richard?
Yeah.
Well, that was nice of him. Cool. All right. We're down to number 8 here. Charles Barkley, dead or alive?
He's alive.
Heck yeah, he's great. I love that guy. Charles Manson, dead or alive?
He's alive.
Charles Manson died in 2017. Sir, have fun in the town that's named after yourself, Richard and Richardson.
Well, do I win or lose?
Well, you just lost, sir. Sorry. Here's the crazy part. We're going to Robert in Weatherford. Robert, you're in the great position. You only have to get one right, and you're going to get the Megyn Kelly tickets. You ready?
Yeah. 50-50 shot. Let's go.
All right. It's a Dallas guy. He lives here. Or did he live here? Chuck Norris, dead or alive?
Oh, Chuck's still alive. He can never die.
Well, I think he's still immortal, but he's 85 years old. And I got to tell you, Robert, we can kill the bed music. I got to tell you, I think I can take him. Robert, he's 85 years old. I love Chuck Norris. I respect the hell out of him. I bumped into him at the California Pizza Kitchen that used to be on Beltline, kind of by Montfort. And I'm like a foot taller than this guy. I don't know if you've ever seen me. I'm a big, dumb animal. I think I could take Chuck Norris. Not Chuck Norris in his prime. He'd tear me to shreds. But 85-year-old Chuck Norris, I think I got a real shot, Robert.
I still would put the money on Chuck.
I know. Well, you might be right. Well, I don't know. If you know him, tell him to give me a call. We'll set it up for charity or whatever. He can go kick my butt in public. But you've just won 2 tickets to see Megyn Kelly. She's going to be with Glenn Beck and Mark Halperin at Dickies Arena October 25th. For the rest of us, get tickets at megankelly.com. She spells it MEGYN Kelly.com. All right, coming up next on The James Show, someone challenged the internet on this whole Charlie Kirk thing. Look, man, look at all this racist stuff he said. And you've heard, well, you can edit anything to make someone sound racist. And one of the replies from a very important influencer was, I bet you no one could edit together sound bites from Mr. Rogers and make him sound racist. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, on your new home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They're fun, a little more lighthearted than a lot of the shows in this talk radio space. Nice and smarmy and sarcastic like yours truly here. I really think you'll like them. Check them out 11 to 2 on weekdays. Now, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting, there's been a whole lot of people who had no idea who Charlie Kirk was, and they wanted to be a part of this story and have an opinion. So they went out and they watched a bunch of Charlie Kirk videos. Now, some people have gone through and gotten just some selectively edited clips to say, look, Charlie Kirk is racist. And a lot of people are making the point, well, you can take clips from just about anybody, re-edit them together, and make them sound racist. And someone said, well, I challenge you. This was a congressional staffer. This is a chief of staff to a congressman. I challenge you to edit together Mr. Rogers to make him sound racist. And within seconds, the genius ninjas, the weaponized autism that is the internet, had a response. And it took a little bit of effort, I suppose, because the audio actually comes from an interview with Mr. Rogers, not audio from his show. He's on Dave Letterman with the old set. Dave Letterman looks young as heck in this one. So it looks like it might be in the late 70s, early 80s at the latest. And there's two different parts from this interview that they stick together. One of them, Mr. Rogers is talking about his experience with chimpanzees. And the second part of this clip, now you're not going to hear the edit because whoever spliced this together, it looks perfect. You can't even tell if you watch the video that this was edited at all. The second half mentions him meeting Eddie Murphy. So here's Mr. Rogers.
Often things, or not often, but occasionally things get a little goofy. Yeah.
Yes, in that next program that they're going to show on that blooper business, there's a chimpanzee that gets out of hand. That's right. I just met him a little bit ago. Do you think we could see that?
Well, certainly.
Eddie Murphy?
Mm-hmm.
All right, see what happened there? Oh, my goodness. Yes, the answer is yes. If there's enough tape of someone out there, there's a way that you can selectively edit it to where even Mr. Rogers sounds like a racist. That's a terrible thing that Mr. Rogers would never say. And if Mr. Rogers was ever assassinated, could you imagine people passing that around as if it were the truth, saying, see, I told you he was a terrible person? Because that's pretty much what they're doing right now with Charlie Kirk. Another fun thing that will give you a good giggle that's going around the viral video scene right now. Caitlin Bennett. Caitlin Bennett does these things where she does man-on-the-street interviews. And in this one, she goes to a place where she knows a bunch of lefties are going to be, a lot of Team Blue members. And she holds up pictures of ICE detention facilities during the Biden administration, and then lies to the people she's talking to, telling her that this is the conditions under the Trump administration, which it might very well continue to be. But because people have been trained to hate Trump and anything orange man bad, she makes them look like absolute fools because she gets them to say some really ridiculous things about Biden's ICE detention centers.
So this is like something you don't agree with Trump administration on?
No, I do not.
Okay. Why not? What's going on in these photos?
That's inhumane. I don't think people should have to live in those conditions.
Yeah. And you think maybe a president who would allow this to happen to people coming across the border shouldn't be the president?
I would agree with that.
So you didn't vote for Trump?
No, I did not.
Okay. And this may be one of the reasons because he treats people like this.
Yeah.
Do you think the Biden administration and Kamala Harris in charge of the immigration stuff in his administration would have ever treated people this way?
I don't think they would have treated.
You don't think they would have?
No.
And Kamala and Biden have kind hearts.
They do.
They do.
They showed that.
Yeah. Would you ever expect the previous administration to treat migrants this way?
The previous administration? No, probably not.
You've heard about Alligator Alcatraz treating people like this, right?
Yeah, I've heard about it, yeah.
Yeah. You've heard about it?
I have. Yeah.
Like right on the floor, they're sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
People are just so trained. People are so incapable of critical thought. Like if someone stopped me and a man on the street and they're like, does this look inhumane? It's like, I don't know. It looks like a detention facility to me. People are sleeping on the floor. Yeah, that's what happens in jail. Look, they have to drink water out of the same piece of furniture as their toilet. Yeah, I understand that's kind of the norm for detention facilities. Is this inhumane? No, that's just how you enforce the law. It seems fine to me. Like, I don't know if you could ever bust me in one of these things where if you told me it was the other team's side that did this, you know, if someone said, well, this is Biden's detention facility. Yeah, that's kind of what I imagine. Is this inhumane? No, not really. Seems about right. But it's crazy because that is like a small example of how if your team does it, it's fine. If the other team does it, literally Hitler. So another thing that's being passed around on the viral video scene is Bill Clinton talking about illegal immigration in the 90s. These statements that he made when he was president are things that would get you labeled a hate group by the ACLU and the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center and MSNBC. This is hate speech that is now being used to justify the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He was full of hate. That's all he did, was run around and spread hate for immigrants and gay people and women and whatever else. And
all Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
What?
That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before,
Gestapo,
by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
oh my God, listen to all that hate speech. Literally Hitler, he's hiring Gestapo. It's the worst thing. And then I had to cut it off there because right after that, intern crawled out from under the podium. That was real awkward. I'm kidding. No, Sean. No, it was a joke. Don't put that in the news. All right, that's going to about do it for the James Show today. Stick around. The great one, Mark Levin, is coming up next. In the meantime, if you need more James Show action in your life, you can find the podcast. You can check out some of the videos and clips that we have on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in about 21 hours. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.